Good evening. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, and this is your Englebrook Independent News Federal Crime Report covering the most significant federal cases across the United States Plain States. Tonight, a 30-year sentence in child exploitation case, millions recovered in cyber fraud targeting schools, a massive multi-state drug conspiracy, and a sweeping federal indictment involving more than 50 defendants. In Montana, a Florence man will spend decades behind bars after targeting minors online. 41-year-old Matthew Ray Tack has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison, followed by a lifetime of supervised release, after pleading guilty to multiple counts involving production and receipt of child pornography. Investigators say this case spanned years. Evidence recovered from seized devices included explicit images and videos involving minors, some created as recent as 2024. Authorities say Tack used messaging platforms to contact minors, repeatedly soliciting sexual explicit material. Two victims were identified and later confirmed that they had been coerced. Prosecutors described the conduct as a calculated, deliberate, and sustained over time. In a separate case in Montana, a healthcare professional has been sentenced for tampering with controlled substances. Caitlin Marie Smoothman received 3 years of probation after investigators discovered fentanyl vials had been altered or emptied. Authorities say patients had been receiving insufficient medication, raising serious safety concerns. In Billing, a convicted felon had been sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison after selling firearms to undercover agents. Investigators say Frank Spencer Marr trafficked multiple weapons, including pistols and semi-automatic rifles, despite being legally prohibited from possessing firearms. From violent crimes and financial fraud, we now turn to North Dakota. Federal authorities have recovered more than $4.8 million of stolen funds from Dixonson's public school in a cyber fraud scheme. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and federal prosecutors tracked the stolen funds to a financial account and executed seizure warrants. The funds are now in federal custody, with officials working to return the money to the school district. The case remains ongoing as authorities pursue final forfeiture proceedings. In Wyoming, federal authorities have recovered more than $868,000 from victims in a long-running fraud scheme. The case dates back to more than a decade and involved fraudulent work tied to oil infrastructure projects. Officials say restitution efforts can continue for years and, in some cases, decades after conviction. Still ahead, violent assault in South Dakota, a sweeping federal indictment in Nebraska, and a massive drug trafficking operation tied to Mexico. In South Dakota, a violent assault had led to a federal prison sentence. Jacob Wright has been sentenced to more than 3 years after striking a victim with a metal bar, causing life-threatening head injuries that required emergency surgery. In a separate case, Dwan Rillard III received time served after assaulting a federal corrections officer while in custody. In Nebraska, federal prosecutors have announced a sweeping series of indictments. 19 indictments have been unsealed, charging 21 defendants across a wide range of federal crimes. Charges include drug trafficking, child exploitation, firearm violations, immigration offenses, and financial fraud. All defendants are presumed innocent and until proven guilty in the court of law. In a related case, a California man has been sentenced for mailing methamphetamine into Nebraska. Another defendant received more than 6 years in prison after investigators uncovered thousands of illegal fires involving minors. And a convicted trafficker now faces up to 40 years in prison after a jury found him guilty of cocaine distribution. From Nebraska, we move to Kansas, where federal agents dismantle a major drug operation. In Kansas, multiple federal cases highlight both child exploitation crimes and organized trafficking networks. Two men have been sentenced to a lengthy prison term after investigators uncovered thousands of illicit material. In a separate case, a former postal employee pled guilty to stealing and hiding mail intended for delivery. Meanwhile, a Homeland Security Task Force investigation dismantled a methamphetamine trafficking ring tied to Mexico. Authorities seized more than 70 kilograms of meth, along with cash and firearms. The operation resulted in multiple convictions, including a 25-year sentence for the organized leader. Still ahead, one of the largest federal indictments of the year in Oklahoma, a global cybercrime case now playing out in Texas. One of the largest federal cases in the month comes out of Oklahoma. Federal prosecutors have charged 51 defendants in a nationwide black market marijuana conspiracy. Authorities say the operation spanned multiple states and involved large-scale illegal cultivation. Investigators seized approximately 61,000 marijuana plants and hundreds of processed products. More than 20 suspects remain at large. In Texas, federal authorities are processing a Chinese national accused of participating in a global cyber intrusion campaign targeting U.S. research institutions. Additional cases include 27-year sentence in a child exploitation case, a life sentence in a murder for hire plot, and a decade-long sentence in a human smuggling operation tied to a death. In Louisiana, federal prosecutors have filed charges in multiple cases, including threats of violence against a synagogue, multi-million-dollar tax fraud scheme, and public corruption involving housing fraud. From child exploitation and violent crimes to cyber institutions and organized trafficking networks, these cases reflect the wide range of federal law enforcement across the Plains states. Agencies include Federal Bureau of Investigation, Drug Enforcement Administration, the Department of Justice continue to coordinate efforts to investigate and prosecute crimes at every level. From crime scenes to the courtroom, we follow the truth. I'm Haylee Ficuciello. Good night.